I recently finished House of Glass by Sarah Pekkanen, a novel that immediately caught my eye with its intriguing premise. The story centers around Rose Buckley, a 9-year-old girl who becomes mute after possibly witnessing the murder of her nanny. Stella Hudson, a best interest attorney, is brought in to determine the best outcome for Rose amidst her parents' messy divorce. With a setting as eerie as a house devoid of any glass and a family filled with secrets, the book promised a tense, psychological thriller. However, as I delved deeper, I found myself grappling with mixed feelings about the execution of the story. The novel starts strong, immersing the reader in an unsettling atmosphere. The Buckley family's home, with its complete absence of glass, sets the stage for a tale that feels both claustrophobic and mysterious. The initial setup is compelling. Stella, who has her own traumatic past, is tasked with protecting a child who may or may not be hiding dark secrets. The tension is palpable as Stella tries to uncover the truth about what happened to the nanny, all while dealing with her own unresolved issues. However, as the story unfolds, the narrative begins to lose its focus. One of the main issues I encountered was the overwhelming number of plotlines that Pekkanen introduces. While each subplot had the potential to add depth to the story, they often felt disconnected, pulling the narrative in too many directions at once. For instance, the mystery surrounding the nanny's death is gripping at first, but it soon becomes overshadowed by Stella's investigation into her own mother's death, which happened years ago. Stella's personal history, while interesting, felt like it was competing with the main plot rather than enhancing it. We are given numerous flashbacks to her troubled childhood, her struggles with her mother's addiction, her father's untimely death, and the role of Charles, a mentor figure who has his own complex history with her family. These elements are intended to flesh out Stella's character, but they often come across as distractions from the central mystery. Instead of focusing on the tense dynamics within the Buckley family, the book frequently diverts to explore Stella's past, which, while tragic, doesn't feel fully relevant to the story at hand. Another issue lies with the characterization, particularly of Stella herself. We are told that she's a competent, professional attorney, but her actions throughout the book suggest otherwise. At various points, Stella seems almost irrationally paranoid, especially when she begins to suspect that Rose, a 9-year-old girl, might be responsible for the murder of her nanny. This leap in logic felt forced and made Stella seem less like a seasoned professional and more like someone who is easily swayed by her emotions. Her judgment often appears clouded, which undermines her role as the protagonist who is supposed to be guiding us through the mystery. The pacing of the novel also suffers due to these multiple, sometimes unnecessary, plot lines. What begins as a promising, slow-burn thriller becomes bogged down with details that don't contribute much to the central mystery. For instance, there's a subplot involving a budding romance between Stella and Detective Garcia, which feels tacked on and out of place. It distracts from the core of the story and adds to the overall sense of disjointedness. As the story reaches its climax, the narrative becomes even more convoluted. The final reveal, which should have been the payoff for all the suspense built up throughout the book, falls flat. The resolution felt rushed and unconvincing, with key plot points tied up too neatly or left inadequately explained. For example, the shift in how Stella perceives Rose, from a potentially dangerous child to a victim needing rescue, felt abrupt and poorly justified. The dramatic conclusion, involving a confrontation with Harriet, the grandmother, and a taser, stretched credibility to its limits. The idea of a frail, older woman posing such a significant threat felt more absurd than thrilling. And it left me questioning the logic behind the entire storyline. Furthermore, some of the narrative choices, such as the ongoing theme of Stella's traumatic past, felt overplayed and repetitive. There's only so much backstory one can take before it starts to feel like filler rather than meaningful character development. By the time the book wraps up, there's a sense of missed opportunities, a feeling that, with tighter editing and a more focused narrative, House of Glass could have been a far more compelling read. Overall, while House of Glass had a strong start and some intriguing elements, it ultimately struggled to maintain its momentum. The multiple plot lines, inconsistent characterization, and a disjointed narrative made it difficult to fully immerse myself in the story. The potential for a gripping psychological thriller was there, but it was bogged down by unnecessary subplots and a lack of clear direction. If you're curious about the book and want to see for yourself, check the description for a link to grab a copy. In conclusion, House of Glass is a novel that had all the right ingredients but didn't quite manage to bring them together in a satisfying way. It's a reminder that sometimes, less is more, and that focusing on a central mystery can often create a stronger, more engaging story. If you're a fan of Sarah Pekkanen's previous work, you might still find elements to enjoy here, but for me, it was a missed opportunity for what could have been a standout thriller.